Good, okay, so well, welcome to Twinmotion, Revolutionise Your Rendering. I'm Jonathan Reeves, and the goals for today's presentation really are to help you understand a bit more about real-time rendering with Twinmotion. Also, just to recognise the opportunities for your business in the architecture, engineering and construction industry. If you've ever known ever wondered what AEC means, you know now. And also, I'm going to really demonstrate through a real-world example and a project that I've been working on using Twinmotion, what the benefits I see for that sort of process have been. So a tiny bit of an introduction about myself, for those of you who don't know me. My name is Jonathan Reeves. I'm a practicing architect in the UK. I've got over 20 years experience now with Vectorworks, and also the last few years Twinmotion as well. I'm also a Vectorworks reseller, and as well as being a reseller for Vectorworks, also I'm with Epic. So I've been on with Epic Games for a while as well. I like to say that I'm an author because I have written a book. In fact, I'm working on another book. I'll give you a sneak preview of a few pages. The next book's on Twinmotion actually, so that's quite appropriate.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah, it's exciting. Hard work, but super exciting.
It certainly is hard work, yes. Been there, done that.
Absolutely, and that comes and written quite a number of books, so she's an accomplished author too. I'm based in Loughborough these days. I've lived all over the UK actually, in lots of different places, but I'm actually based right in the middle, which is a nice spot to be these days. Really a couple of hours from anywhere. In the old days when I used to travel around, that was handy. And if you're interested, you can have a look at my three websites, my architecture one, my Vectorworks one, that's my sort of primary one I guess, and then recently in the last couple of years I set up realtimerendering.com, and this one really is the one that you should look at if you're heavily interested in rendering and Twinmotion. That's the one. So, you know, over the last 20 years, I love to show this image because it's one of my favourite images from back in the day when I was doing a master's degree in architecture and computing back at Sheffield Uni. And, you know, I always kind of make the joke about how long this image took. And I think it took me 3 weeks to build the model in Minicad 4, I think it was, Tamsin, if anyone remembers Minicad days. And, you know, the rendering...
Minicad's before my time, actually.
That's it. The Minicad, the rendering took 72 hours on this little kind of Mac with 4 megabytes of RAM, not gigabytes, megabytes, you know. 72 hours of rendering, whirring away, and it was only a tiny little 640 by 480 image. Now, things have clearly moved on since then, but I kind of like to remind myself in a way where I've come from and how painful it used to be to get 3D images out. And now everything is so easy, it's unbelievable. So, you know, the hardware and the power have moved on dramatically, but it's a nice little kind of story, I think. So I've definitely been an early adopter of 3D. I've used it my whole career. I've really witnessed over the last few years that 3D building information modeling and now, you know, visualization coming back in-house are the big changes in our industry. It used to be that 3D was something that you would, you know, for high-end 3D, you'd send out of house probably for bigger practices, but now you can just do it again yourself. Over the years, I've worked with lots of different companies as a teacher and a trainer, so if anyone does like some training, I'll be very pleased to help on the Vectorworks and Twinmotion side as well. So we were chatting to Tamsin about this earlier. This is my lovely new office. I haven't used that much in the last year for obvious reasons, but you know, I'm very excited to start to get down there.
Not long now, yeah.
Yeah, we have been getting down there a bit more now. So, you know, when life's normal again, guys, it'd be lovely for you to come and have some training courses in my gorgeous training venue here. It's really nicely set up for big groups, and we've got the screens and all sorts of things, even the different time zones around the world. So look at that. So yeah, that's lovely. It is lovely. I'm super excited about it. Okay, it's been a bit of a delay for you, but you know, when life's normal again, definitely going to be.
I'm definitely coming to visit for a cup of tea.
Yeah,
definitely.
Absolutely. We'll be running lots of courses here, so that'd be cool. Okay, quick little snippet from my book. 5 years old now, 6 years old even. So I think my next book, Tamsin's going to have to be another Vectorworks book. If I've got one more book left in me, we'll see. So I'm thinking about it already. If you want to get a copy, just drop me an email or I'll send out a free copy for anybody attending today. A couple of nice pictures there. But really, just to finalise this sort of intro, I've also been really busy doing my YouTube channel. This is a bit outdated. Look, 2.75. I'm on over 8,300 now. So wow. Please come and join the community. There's loads of lovely Vectorworks videos, 3D, 2D, BIM stuff. There's lots of Twinmotion stuff as well. So if you're not aware of this, actually the channel name's changed as well. I should have updated this slide. It's now called Jonathan Reeves CAD. Okay, so just have a look at that one. Good. Okay, so back to Twinmotion. So I got into Twinmotion a few years ago when it first came out on the Mac. Being a sort of hardcore Mac user, that was really what I was waiting for. And to be fair, its development on the Mac platform has kept up with the PC. I've actually got a Mac and a PC now, and I use both. But it's really nice to be able to have it cross-platform, and that's the benefit of Twinmotion. There are other real-time rendering software, like Enscape and Lumion. They're great softwares too, but they only run on PC. So if you are interested in Twinmotion, take a look at the real-time rendering website. Loads of information on here for you. By all means, have a quick look at the store. It's very, very good value software, but that's the key really. It's super nice to use and very cost effective and very straightforward. Okay, great. So just before we kind of get started, I thought I'd give you a couple of sneak previews of a few pages of my book. Can you see that, Tamsin?
Yes, I can. Yeah.
Very good. Okay, so this is some of the renderings done by some really wonderful artists all over the world. So I've been lucky enough to kind of engage with the community globally, really, for Twinmotion. And I've managed to get on board some of the really best artists for Twinmotion all over the world. So I'm very excited about that. And you can see some of the stunning work they have produced using this software. Unbelievable. Now, my stuff won't be quite like this stunning today for obvious reasons, but hopefully I'll give you a demo of how this works. Let's just show you one more. I think this is a nice one too. Let's just do this one here. So yeah, this is Paul Rimser. He's a really well-known Twinmotion artist. Again, he's only been using it a couple of years, so not that long. But if you look at the kind of work he does, it's absolutely stunning, very varied as well. So yeah, it's really popular software, and part of the reason for that is that anyone with kids will know that their kids probably like playing Fortnite, which is the computer game by Epic Games. And Epic Games are the company behind Twinmotion. So basically, Twinmotion is, if you like, an architectural interface, a very simple interface over the top of the power of the Unreal Engine. For anybody who has heard about the Unreal Engine in the computer games industry. And Unreal Engine is developing at a huge rate of knots. So there's some really exciting developments happening on the Twinmotion side too with that. But look at the quality of these images, so detailed. And that's the real beauty I found with Twinmotion, as well as doing the texturing and the modeling and the lighting. It's all the soft stuff like the trees and the planting and the weather. So hopefully get a bit of that across in my demo today for you. What do you think, Tamsin? Gorgeous, aren't they?
Absolutely gorgeous. Yes.
Yeah. I'm really, really excited. I've got a few more I could show you. I've got quite a few UK ones, and I've actually got loads of Vectorworks users as well.
That's great.
So that's fab. Okay, great. Let's hop into the demonstration. Now, I'm going to actually start quickly with Vectorworks, because what I thought I'd do with this demonstration is demonstrate through a project, actually. You may have seen this project. I've had a few sort of bits on social media, and there's an interesting story behind this project. If I actually go onto my movie to begin with. So I'll tell a little bit of a story while I play this slideshow. So it's a project I've been engaged with for about a year now, and basically it's for a site sort of in Leicestershire for a new eco home. And it's just really kind of, I felt was an infill site, but actually the planners regarded this as kind of not developable really, and a few planning applications have been refused. Turn the sound down. Basically, what we did, we came up with quite an interesting, innovative concept with the client, which was for an earth-sheltered eco home. So very sort of low impact on the environment. And the idea really was to kind of hide it, if you like, hide the building. Now, what happened was the planners basically, first instinct was, again, you know, the site was open countryside and it wasn't developable. But I think due to the, should we say, hopefully the high quality design, and also, you know, I really think the stunning presentation that we produced with Twinmotion, essentially, and Vectorworks, the combination of the two, it really got them to think about it. And the local councillors at the parish council loved the presentation, and they loved the story, if you like, the design, and the fact you couldn't see the building much. So that was where it came from. We went from sort of them, you know, automatically refusing planning to actually start to engage and consider. So what happened was very interesting, actually. The planners then came back and said, well, maybe there's no reason why this building needs to be hidden. Perhaps you could have 2 stories, and all sorts of strange things that planners don't normally do. So it's an interesting process, and you'll see that if I show, just kind of go through some of the interiors here as well. We did lots of work on the interiors, and that's the beauty in a way. With Twinmotion, you can pre-visualize a design at very early stages, even planning stage, to knock the socks off the client, but also, you know, hopefully the other parties and consultees involved. And I think once you kind of change their mindset about, wow, this is really beautiful, and you really kind of engage them with that, as opposed to just some very broad brush sketches, then it makes a big difference to how they look at engaging with the project. So that's a bit of background. Now you can see, let's just stop this movie here. Here is the actual scheme. So this is the one that's been developed as a result of the planners saying, well, you could have another story and you don't need to hide it. And the client was quite keen because they wanted a even bigger home. It's a beautiful home, I think. It's quite large. So what do you think, Tamsin? Is that coming across okay for you? You get a bit of an idea of the project?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's lovely, and it's nice to see, you know, the whole thing sitting in Vectorworks. Yeah. I mean, that is your design tool, isn't it? That's where you're creating the design,
absolutely,
getting all the benefits of the Vectorworks modeling capability for all of your drawings, but then being able to take that across for that level of visual.
That's right.
Incredible. Yeah.
So yeah, it all really starts in Vectorworks. Obviously, Vectorworks is the design tool. Vectorworks is where I do all day long, you know, produce, I think, really kind of nice drawings, just nothing flash, OpenGL rendering. Got a great little technique where I produce these very rapidly and very quickly without too much stress. And the beauty is all of these will update the second, well, not the second, but, you know, within a few seconds of me changing my model, clearly. So this process is what you want to use for design. You know, you need your visualization software or 3D software rather, to be able to produce decent looking renders. And again, for many things, these would be fine up to planning stage, absolutely perfect. But you know, for me, to go to the next level, we do have Renderworks, and I love Renderworks. It's a great software. But you know, I do find that going to Twinmotion adds a little extra something special. So that's what I'm going to focus on. So I'm not going to go through the whole process, but I'll just go back to the model for a second and show you really how you would export this. So there's 2 formats I've tried. In fact, there's lots of different formats that Twinmotion will work with. Okay, so let's go File, Export. Let's just talk about a few of these. I've tried the things like OBJ, they work, and 3D Studio, but the one that I find really super reliable is the Cinema 4D export. So that's the one that I've generally been using up until now. There is a brand new one that only came out with Surface Pack 3, I think it was, Tamsin, which was the Datasmith export. This is very exciting because Epic and Vectorworks are clearly working closely together now and developing the built-in export for the Datasmith file format. And that's the file format that Unreal Engine and Twinmotion work with. So you can go straight to those softwares. But just until then, I just want to make the point that Cinema 4D also works super well as well. So what I tend to do is I would advise you when you do export the model, you can do the whole thing as one massive lump. What I quite like to do is break it down a bit. And I often go down and break it down to the individual layers, as you can see, and I export those one at a time. And the reason I do that is because then when I need to do any updating of the geometry in Twinmotion, it might be that I only need to update the ground floor and not the first floor and the site. So it makes it a lot quicker and a lot easier for me just to tweak this bit of the project and actually kind of do a bit of updating in Twinmotion. Does that make sense? I think that does. That's a good, good sort of good workflow, I would say. Excellent. Right. So I think now it's time to hop into Twinmotion, and I've got that linked here. Sorry, the postman's come to the door, so we've got a bit of noise in the background. If that's
All right.
you can hear that. Okay, good. How's that? Can everyone see that? Okay.
Yes, yeah, that's coming through nicely.
Wonderful. Okay, so I'll make the point today. I'm actually running on my little MacBook Pro, believe it or not. It's a 2016 MacBook Pro. It's not the bang up to date one. What I do have plugged in is a Vega 64 graphics card via an eGPU, and that can make quite a bit of difference to the performance. Okay, so because I'm screen sharing today, guys, it's going to be a little bit jerky for you, but you'll get a nice impression, I think. Now, let me just discuss a little bit for those complete beginners about the Twinmotion interface. So I want to make it a bit of a sort of teaching session as well as a demoing session for you. So the first thing that you do is you go to this tab here, and basically you can see down the bottom here, and these are all the tabs of the various bits of the model I imported, like the ground floor, the site, in fact that's the ground floor, the site, and so on. So you can see those sort of 4 or 5 little separate exports that I brought in. And that's nice because if I do want to, I can click on these buttons and I can just refresh any of those at any time. So over on this top corner, a bit like object information, is essentially where the models land. And you can see them all sort of piled up here in a relatively well organized fashion. So for example, if I turn the site off, you can see I can basically manage the visibilities of all these things. Let's turn the first floor off. Let's turn the roof off. Let's go up and have a look inside the plan. So that's the other benefit of exporting layer by layer. And I find that really useful to be able to kind of get into my project. What do you think, Tams? It's quite a nice approach, that, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And it's kind of sort of makes sense with the whole structure of a Vectorworks file as well. The same idea.
It does. Yeah, I like that. I like that approach. It took me a while to kind of discover that. So that would be a nice tip for you. You know, previously I just exported the whole model, and there's always little changes, and then I'd have to re-import the model again, the whole thing. But nowadays, this works extremely well. Plus, I do love this added benefit, being able to look inside the model. And actually, that's surprisingly useful when you come to place things, as you'll see in a bit as well. Okay, fantastic. So let's go back to the whole thing. So Twinmotion is essentially a real-time visualization software. And this is what you're actually seeing on screen, even though it might be a little bit jerkier than it should be. I'm getting a reasonable frame rate at the moment of 13, but again, that's partly because I'm screen sharing and doing the GoToWebinar. So this little panel here is very useful. You can pop this up from the bottom, and it will kind of just tell you what your computer and your GPU is actually doing. If you click on this button here, the nice thing with Twinmotion is you can actually set the quality to appropriately suit the hardware you have. Normally I'd click automatic, but if I just drop down to medium settings for a moment, you probably see, yeah, there we go. We're back in the green now, and actually my screen is moving really fast. Okay, so the frame rate is really excellent now, and it's going quite well. So yeah, as long as you're sort of in the green or near the green, then that's going to give you a nice experience. So when you're modeling, what I would recommend is you adjust the quality setup so that it suits your hardware. Now, one thing to bear in mind is when you do your final renderings, they will always come out at the ultra quality, well, beyond ultra actually, even higher than ultra. Ultra is just the screen preview. So that is really nice. I won't dare to go to low. Low is going to give you very good frame rate, but looks a bit poor quality wise. You see what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
But fine for working, you know, when you're doing your work and you're placing objects and so on. So yeah, I might go back to, let's go back to high. That's the one I suggest. What you'll notice is the rendering of the lighting. I can adjust the lighting here. It is basically really nice when you're in high or medium, and things like reflectivity and lighting and shadows. Okay, so for me, let's start off talking about what I see the big benefits of real-time rendering. Okay, well, look, the biggest
Before
one.
you dive into that, Jonathan, I was just going to. There are a couple of questions actually. I might might be quite good too. So the first one is, how do you change the background for the model?
Okay, yeah, that is a good question. Okay, so what we do, we go, let's talk about these tabs. So this first one is the import tab. Now, one thing you will definitely notice with Twinmotion, it's a really simple interface, very, very pared back. And for most architects and designers and landscape designers, that's the beauty in a way. There isn't a million options like, say, 3D Studio or Cinema 4D. It's really straightforward. So all we do to change the context is we go to this tab, the context tab, we go to location, and we go to background. Now, at the moment, there's a few backgrounds. I can switch to generic sort of none, which might be appropriate. I can go to the more urban backgrounds and so on. I quite like this one, a bit straightforward. Yeah, I mean, I wish there was a few more. I'm sure they will introduce them. I don't know why there's a little gap here. I would have put 3 more in. But, you know, the beauty is you can actually create your own sky domes and drag your own domes in. I may demonstrate that later for you. But there's a few little backgrounds in there. Any other questions that I can answer now, Tamsin?
Yeah, just a quick one. On the eGPU, somebody is using an M1 Mac Mini.
Yeah.
I'm wondering about, are the GPUs available for that?
As far as I'm aware, no. That is one limitation of the M1 at the moment, and for me, that's a bit of a killer. You know, I'm yeah, disappointed. I hope that in the future Apple will open up the MacBooks and the new ones to eGPU processing, because it does make a huge.
But having said that, you know, the M1 in itself is pretty supreme performance. So
yeah, that is true. That is true. Yeah, I think it's a different sort of kettle of fish, because the graphics card is just, well, it's not dedicated. It's built in, but it's basically powerful. Okay.
Super powerful. Yeah, and then the you mentioned refreshing imported elements. Is this a link to the native Vectorworks model or not? Is it a re-import?
No. Honestly, it's just a quick re-export. Once you change the model, you click re-export. It takes the Cinema 4D export. Honestly, takes 3 seconds, and then you
again, if you're doing it layer by layer, that of course also makes it more efficient.
It does.
And the other question, which I think I know the answer to, is when you export individual layers, are they placed correctly when they're imported into Twinmotion? And of course, I think the answer to that has to be yes, because they will have the same coordinates. So.
It is. As long as they've all got the same geographical coordinates, they'll land in the right place. Personally, I tend to model always around my origin, rather than using sort of real world, you know, OS grid data. I often use my Vectorworks bin model as 0, 0, 0 for the reason it will land in Twinmotion in the middle. That makes sense for me. But there's some techniques we can talk about that.
Yeah.
Okay, so one of the real beauties after the environment, shall we say, is, so we talked about changing the background, that's fine. Let's just talk about this in sort of a bit of sequence. So if you pop open this side panel here, I really like this. You get a very nice access to the materials, things like vegetation, landscape, and some props and some characters. So I'll run through a few of these. Let's start with some landscape as I'm out here. So I'll go to trees. You see Twinmotion ships with a really nice sort of native library of trees. You know, I think we could always want for more, and they're always adding more as we go. But let's basically scroll down, and you can see all I need to do is drag and drop to basically add a tree. So it's as simple as that. If I want to add more than one, I can click on the tree and select a few of them. Let's select those 3. Okay, now wherever I click, basically, it will add a new tree, and it will add a random size for me, and it will basically choose from the 3 that I've chosen. So that's extremely nice for rather rapidly populating. We do the same with some planting here. Let's get a few of these plants. You can see every time I click, I'm getting a slightly different sort of randomized tree and plant. So, you know, this is good for sort of rapid planting out of areas where you're not being sort of too prescriptive of what you're looking for. I really like that. Okay, once you've got things like the trees in, all you do is select them, and very clever feature, you can just basically change the age slider. So which one would I have selected? Was it that one? Yeah, you can see I can just change the age of the tree. See if I can do the same with this one. For some reason that one's still selected. Here we go, there's that one there. So that's nice. You can change the age of the tree, and you'll see it actually changes the type of tree as it grows. It's pretty phenomenal. I've never known a bit of software that can grow trees like this, Tamsin.
That's incredible.
You can change the leaf color as well. So what is really nice here, you can hold down the shift key to drag off a copy, and basically you can make it unique by breaking its instance. So at the moment they're both the same thing, a bit like a symbol in a way.
Yeah.
If I change one, you see they're both changing in there.
Yep.
So how about if I want to have one sort of slightly reddy color, and I right click, break the instance, and now this one is unique, so I can make that one a bit more kind of greeny color. So you can see I've got the same tree but very different look, and that applies now. This is a new feature they added. This applies across all of the vegetation. So I was chatting to quite a few landscape architects about this, and they said that this is extremely useful now, because it means that although the Twinmotion library for now is not, you know, got everything in it, you can tweak it to make it quite varied. So that's a good thing to enable you to basically expand what you might see as a sort of slightly limited library. But there's lots of other techniques we can use to enhance that library. Okay, so for me, the vegetation is absolutely superb. I also love the fact you can change the season as well, summer, winter, autumn, that kind of thing as well. Very, very neat. Okay, let's go on to a bit more on the vegetation and landscape. So if we go to this tool here, there's two wonderful tools here I'd like to show you. So the first one is Vegetation Paint. So what we can do here is we can go and drag in some things that we want to paint on our surface. So let's drag in a bit of grass. In fact, I'll tell you what, let's go for some slightly longer grass. And let's mix in some clovers, and I don't know, maybe I want to have some tall grass in there as well. So I've got three different things that I can paint with. So I just hold Shift down and select those items, get my brush, and basically off I go. I just start to paint on the surface. I can make the brush a bit smaller. You seeing that okay, Tamsin? Is everyone seeing that okay?
Yeah, that's all good, yeah.
Look at that level of detail that we've just suddenly added.
Yeah, and is that onto, is that terrain that originally came from Vectorworks?
This is, but I could easily have added a sculpted terrain that I'm able to mess around with and actually move up and down. So yeah, sure. It's quite easy.
But you can still, I guess I was sort of asking, can you still use terrain that's come from Vectorworks to do that kind of built-in? Yeah, fantastic.
Absolutely, yes, the Vectorworks side model can be used that. Now this is a really neat little trick as well. You can turn on and off that painted object. So it's one object, but if I select it, I can actually change the density of the different types of things within it. So it's post-editable. So you can see I've totally changed the look of that landscape in a few seconds. And believe it or not, you can even drag in additional things. Let's drag in some flowers, maybe some nice red poppies. And you can see it immediately just adds those into the painted object. So it's a really gorgeous way to work. And the way I sort of equate this to people, it's a bit like 3D Photoshop, honestly. You know, normally you would have done this sort of fancy stuff in Photoshop, wouldn't you?
Yeah, definitely. It would be a sort of post-process, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know whether you can see that, everybody, but can you see that? I'll pause for a minute. Can you see everything's waving and blowing in the wind, and there's a little bit of movement, or should we say motion, twin motion? So actually, I was talking to the, when I know the inventors of Twinmotion, the creators, and one of their big motives behind the software was Twinmotion was the idea that you could visualize, but also you could visualize with motion. And that was really what their key point was, to try and retain that all the way through. Okay, so let's move on a bit. So we've got these wonderful libraries of plants and trees. There's also some really nice things like rocks. I love zoom into those. It's a bit tight. These are really high quality as well. So, you can really kind of build up some very sort of stunning looking scenes quite rapidly. So I think that gives you a bit of an idea of the landscape. So let's move on to the architecture a bit more. Okay. Okay, well, cars. You can see, why don't I start from scratch and delete that car. Let's go to vehicles. You can see there's a really big range of stuff here, including some construction machines. I'll come on to in a minute. So let's drag in this nice vehicle here. And again, it's very neat. You can basically just sort of swap out to different colors really rapidly. So instead of one, massive library of cars, you've just got this really kind of big generic library that you can change. So yeah, take a look at some of these things. There's all these sort of construction things. So for bigger projects, I was chatting to Kia yesterday, big construction company, and they're quite interested in using Twinmotion to show the construction sequencing. And that's something that you can 100% definitely do very straightforwardly. And a lot of these are maybe not appropriate, but they're animated. Just takes a second to load in. And just click on this one. So, it'd be quite fun to actually show the project in the process of animation. And you can show it with phases as well. But each object you add can just be turned on or off pretty straightforwardly. I think we'll delete that digger. I know. That's what I wanted to be, Tamsin, when I was a 4-year-old. I wanted to be a digger driver, but became an architect instead. So
my boys want to be digger drivers as well.
Tonka toys, yeah. Okay, let's go forward a bit more. Right, so let's start dealing with the architecture and the materials. So let's go back. So all of these materials, by the way, are things that just dropped in from Vectorworks, from Renderworks. So I tend to apply a lot of those natively. What's really lovely is I can go to my libraries, I can simply drag and drop to replace those Twinmotion materials with, the Vectorworks materials with Twinmotion ones. And then what you can do is you can easily sort of colorize those materials as well. So sort of slide, that's not the best material, is it really? I'm just looking for something a bit nicer. Let's go for some stone, drag on some sort of tiles, and let's go for something quite reflective. Yeah, it always looks quite nice. So you can see it's very drag and drop. You're really just playing with sliders. If you do want to be a bit more scientific, you can actually type in numbers here. Okay. But what you begin to notice with Twinmotion, it's super simple compared to any other 3D rendering software you've used. Even some of the settings are hidden away, like the rotate. I'm not sure why the rotate's under there, but if I do want to rotate, I'll just pop it in there and off I go. So that can take a little bit of time to learn, but it really isn't, too much stress. Basically, replacing materials is very straightforward. And to go into the finer settings, you just click the settings button here, and this is where you can change things like the bump mapping, things like glow. I don't really need that glowing, and metallicness as well to make it even more shiny. Look how shiny that is now.
Yeah, wow.
So things like the real-time reflections, these are just gorgeous. I'm not being funny, but not much other software does it quite like Twinmotion does. When you change the lighting, you see those reflections change. Absolutely stunning. Okay, so let's kind of move around a bit more. Let's go to our, okay, so just finish off the libraries. Look, I just really want to make the point there is a huge amount of stuff here for those of you who don't have the time to create your own materials, but you can, and I will show you how to do that in a second. So it's really just to give you a bit of a flavour. I think there's over 900 built-in materials. Every single one can be customised fully, so that's an infinite number of 900. Plus, of course, you can actually just create your own. Okay, so look at the wood, it's absolutely gorgeous. So really, really nice libraries. Okay, great. So let's deal with some objects now. So I'll slide up this panel, let's leave that here again, and we'll go to objects. So this is organised a bit like a folder structure, really. So we can kind of go in here, we can go, say, to tables, and again, you see a big range of tables. Not all of them to my taste, I have to say, but let's basically just drag and drop one of those in. You can see how easy it is, and if you don't like it, you can just basically replace it. So once you've dragged it in, this is how easy it is to move things around in the model. You'll notice that you have a widget here. Okay, so this enables you to simply rotate And again, you can type in the angle if you would like. Let's just go back to where we were. Let's rotate it around. And what's really neat is, if I want to put this up onto the balcony up here for some reason, it's a bit big, but I can grab this yellow bit of the widget, and essentially you'll see it's almost snapping to the roof now, or wherever I want it to snap. So it's a really neat little trick that they've got this sort of automated, it's a bit like the automatic plane in Vectorworks, isn't it, Tamsin?
Yeah, it's just snapping to the plane, yeah.
Yeah, but it does it sort of really elegantly, which I like a lot. So, okay, let's kind of motor on a bit, get some plants, for example. You can see it's really, really quite rapid. One's a bit bright for me, so let's go for this one here. If you click on it, basically what it does, it loads the object in, so you can kind of then do multiple placements of the same thing. So this is quite nice when you're working quite rapidly. Fantastic. That gives you a bit of an idea. So very quickly, we've added some extra stuff. So as well as things like plants and objects, one of the things that I really do like about Twinmotion is the movement side. I've talked about that before. So if we go to characters for a second, let's add a few of these. So let's kind of try and imagine we're having a nice sunny day, and after COVID's gone away, we're having a bit of a gathering. So we can drag in a character, rotate that character around. Let's give them someone to chat to. There's Agnes here, so we'll drag her in. So you can see this is kind of unique, really. I mean, you know, for 3D software, the idea of doing this in any other software just is way beyond me. You know, I'm not an animation expert, but to drag in pre-made animations, what's nice is you can animate them in different ways. So basically, you can kind of set up quite a realistic little movie almost, or direction. If you really want that, you can show them dancing. Some quite good different sort of dance styles as well. No, I like to joke about that, but you know, I do think that's a very useful thing, that you can have them sitting or posed in certain ways. So that's definitely a unique feature, the ability to pose different eyes, you know, different people and so on. So as well as individual people, we have groups as well. So when you're kind of rapidly doing a big urban project and you need, you know, 20, 30 people in the park or something, you can basically just add in groups of people. Okay, let's just let my computer catch up. And what you notice is each individual person is editable as well within its own right. So if you just, yeah, they're a bit socially undistanced, these guys, aren't they? So let's kind of spread them out a bit. There we go. That's more like it these days, isn't it?
Probably needs that's a new feature request. You could just press a button and everybody is immediately distanced.
So social distance button. Absolutely. Now, a neat little trick I would recommend to you is, let's go over to this side here, is to right click and create containers. So again, containers are a bit like layers, I suppose, in that I can drag all my people into this container. Okay, there we go. I can right click, let's just rename that people. And what's really lovely is I can just now manage the visibility of all those people in one go. So when you're working, it might be better to not have the distraction of the people, but you know, when you do your final renders, you can pop them on. So I think that's a great little tip and a really nice little trick I would recommend to you. Okay, so where should we go now? I think we'll go inside now.
While you do that, Jonathan, shall I just ask you a few questions that have come in?
Go for it. Yeah, of course. Yeah, let's do it.
So I've got one. When you start replacing materials with new ones from Twinmotion, if you go back to your main model in Vectorworks and make changes, when you re-export the model and update in Twinmotion, what happens to the textures that have already been replaced? Does it remember the material replacement that you've done?
I think generally it does. I've had the odd issue where sometimes I've had to replace it. But yes, generally, once you've done the work, it will update. But do remember that the majority of the texturing I personally do in Vectorworks, because I really like the way that you can do that. And then it means that my viewports in Vectorworks look like they should do.
Yeah.
I rarely swap things like the cladding or, you know, the zinc on the building. I might be okay to swap this paving or something like that. So that's my advice. Don't swap out things you ought to be doing in Vectorworks necessarily.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another question is, can you add a transparency channel to a material in Twinmotion?
Yes, there's basically, so to create new materials, let me see if I can just do this briefly. So let's say I want to create a new material. I'll click T, which is this eyedropper tool, T for texture. So that samples the material. Okay, so now you can see all the different qualities of that particular material here. If I click here, I'll see all of the libraries available. So what I can actually do is click plus to start a brand new material. Let's just drag that onto there so you can see, obviously it's white now. So like most other software, the first thing that you do for textures is you load in some kind of texture. So I'll click open. Here we go, I'm gonna have to try and remember. Oh, look at that, that's lucky, got some textures straight away. I think that might have been the one that was exported from Vectorworks. In fact, it was actually. And the reason I know that is because it's exported into my maps folder or my text folder. So you can see, NEMA Czech America, NNA, you can see these are all the Vectorworks textures. But it doesn't matter for the purposes of that demo. That's fine, let's load that in. So now you can see I've got that sort of texture coming in there. Let's change the scaling a little bit there. And reflectivity again, kind of boost that, just making a bit of difference. That reflective is quite a subtle little texture, to be fair. You can darken them all quite straightforwardly, just to give them a bit more body as well. In terms of alpha channels, what you need to do when you load in the image, don't use the JPEG, but use a PNG, and just make sure that you have the alpha channel as part of that PNG. So sometimes with things like people and trees, there's a bit of work to do. I can honestly say to you though, I don't really do it very often because Twinmotion has such a good library of trees and people already. I just don't need to. Okay.
Right. Yeah. So mainly you're using the Vectorworks textures and Twinmotion is doing a great job with them.
Yeah, absolutely. You can see all the, I like the props in Twinmotion, and I like the, sometimes I will sort of swap them out, things like the flooring inside. So on that note then, let's go inside.
Yeah, sorry.
So we talked about the import tab. We talked about the a little bit about the vegetation paint, and I haven't done the scatter and so on. By the way, if you click on the urban tab, this is an interesting one that you can actually set your project in its real location. So there's a little kind of thing here that you can click. Let's just pretend we're in London. I'm not going to do this. Basically, it's oh, sorry, my screen's just gone blank. 1 second. There we go. It's come back. So basically, you can load in and you can grab different areas of context. Okay, so you still seeing that okay, Tamden?
Yeah, all is good.
Fantastic. So back on this location tab, another little trick is you can change the time of the day very straightforwardly. That's really, really easy. Okay, you can also change the month and the time of the year, but you also have a north offset. Can you see? So this means that I don't need necessarily to model my Vectorworks model at its correct north origin. If it's more convenient for me to model in a slightly artificial way, I can, and then I can just adjust the north offset here. So that way I know that I'm getting physically accurate sun studies, like you would also do in RenderWorks, but that's a really good tip because you can actually tell the client, well, look, the reason we've got this overhang is so that you don't get blasted by the sun on any given day. So yeah, I really, really like the fact you can just cheat with the north offset value and the different times of day. Okay, so let's go over to this tab here. Now this tab is all about creating the media. Okay, so these are the different types of media that you can create with Twinmotion very easily. We can do images, panoramas, videos, phasing, which is where I talked about the construction phasing, and presenter. So I'll show you a little selection of some of those. So we'll start by clicking on images, and you can see for this project, I've already got quite a few preset images. So when I click through them, it's really nice, isn't it? It just jumps straight to that image. What's interesting is, each image has its own visibility state. So if that tree is annoying me for that particular image, I can cheat slightly by just clicking refresh, so that in this image, there it is, but in this image, it's no longer visible. Now this is a dead neat trick. It's a bit like save views in Vectorworks, where you set up the view parameters, you save the view, and then it recalls them. But what's different about Twinmotion is that every saved view has its own system of environment as well. So what I mean by that is let's change this one. So I click more. Now I'm back into the location. So now I can change that time of day. Let's go for a sort of gorgeous sunrise, golden hour type time, or night shot or something. Swing round to, let's get the light on this side of the building. Okay, so I can see that I do need to cheat now. In fact, get my north angle round a bit. Yeah, so that's nice. And then now I want to save that. In fact, I don't need to click anything, but I can simply update. If I also want to, I can go to weather. So for each of these, you can change the weather system, and it's really just a case of sliding. You can see if I go down far enough, it will start to rain. So traditional British weather is very easy to emulate here. I'm quite lucky lately, haven't we? Now, if you do slide once it starts to rain, if you start to go towards the season of the winter, of course, believe it or not, it will start to snow. And it might seem a bit gimmicky, but you know what? When it gets to Christmas and winter time, it's really nice to do things like, I don't know, a night shot at Christmas. It looks absolutely fantastic. So
nice.
Do that. Yeah, it's just so easy to do. And that's what I love about this software. For me, it's a bit like being my own media director, which maybe is something I would have enjoyed doing. It's the closest I'm going to get to creating my own little kind of animation or cinematic.
It's lovely.
It's lovely, isn't it? I quite like that. So what I could have done, by the way, I could have duplicated it first so that I kept the original, but I'm happy with that. I'm going to go with that. So you can see every image you have, different weather system, different lighting, different location potentially, different visibilities of different items. So again, the idea was to hide the building, but if I did want to glimpse it, just turn that tree off and then just click refresh. You can see, so now when I go from that view to that view, the tree has disappeared. Clever, isn't that?
Yeah. Yeah, it's great.
Let's go inside. Okay, so while I'm working, I think I'm going to just turn the people off and let's just click update. Okay, I've also got quite a bit of work I would like to show you on some lighting. You can see a few other objects in here, so I'm just going to delete those for now. Let's just delete those. I think they were left over from my previous demo before. That's fine, yeah, I've got some stuff on the table. Okay, good, so we'll go to tables. I just want to show you how rapid this is. Let's go down and select a nice appropriate dining table for the project. It's quite a nice one. Let's go and get some props and decorations or something. So you can see it's really quite rapid to prop out. You can make all of your own custom objects as well, which I'll try and show you if there's time. But I just really wanted to kind of give you an impression of how rapidly this works. And I have to say, I love the internal sort of visuals. Again, the ability, you'll notice that when I click here, this is locked out. And the reason that is locked out is because I'm actually in the middle of editing a specific image. Okay, so for those of you who have that same confusion that I just did, all you need to do is click more and then go to the lighting. So here, now I can play with the exposure levels. It's a bit over bright, can dim it down a bit. So very interactive. And this is, I suppose, kind of what we mean by real-time rendering, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's this ability to change in real time. Look at that with the sun.
Lovely.
Great. Just let it catch up a minute. Oh, I have the spinning wheel. Hopefully that's not going to carry on for too long. So just click back into Twinmotion, see if it's come back. Great. Okay. Excellent. All right. Okay. So you can see propping out is something that is quite straightforward to do. quite rapid. The library is pretty good, but I'll just show you how you can build that library. Let's get the obligatory Mac laptop on the desk there. Do bear in mind that what you're seeing on your screens is certainly going to be quite jerky compared to how it would be when you're working normally.
Yeah, that's just courtesy of GoToWebinar.
Yeah, that's the webinar, it's the internet feed. So it's nice and, you know, it's going to be nice and smooth with a good frame rate when I'm not streaming. So just to expand this list of objects, by the way, this is how you create your own user library objects. You can import from a wide range of software, including, you know, SketchUp Warehouse, for example, or BIM Object. And you'll notice if I go to the user library, I've actually got a massive user library of all sorts of stuff. So basically I can click, and these are all organized into different folders. So for example, we can go into these subfolders. Let's go to plant. There's all sorts here. There's one there. Just sort of drag that into the drawing. So that makes sense. So, you know, although Twinmotion comes with a library of stuff, you can build your own. And I've spent a bit of time doing this. There are a few libraries that you can buy as well. Let's do one more. So if anybody's sort of one of those people who you know, looks at the library and they don't like them, that's absolutely fine. I get that. You know, everyone's got different taste. The answer to that is to build your own, honestly, and it's just a question of you know, building it to your tastes. But you can see there's huge amounts of stuff that you can get. I've actually got a massive library of textures as well under my user library. And finally, I'll just make one more point about libraries. Now we have access to something called Quixel Megascans built into Twinmotion Direct. Quixel is a company that basically go around the world, and what they do is they scan real-world objects, and they're phenomenally realistic. So if you click here, what you need to do with these is the first thing you need to do is just click to, okay, so I just need to sign into my Epic Games account. And as soon as I've signed in now, it will give me the access to click onto this little download button. And you can see its little circle there spinning away. My banana is downloading, ready for my breakfast. I can now drag and drop it to place it, and I get this nice sort of position. The first time you place it takes a second or two, you can see, to process, because it's sort of downloading it from the web somewhere on the cloud, yeah. And then once I've done that first one, hopefully it'll be quite rapid to do the next one. There we go, that's my banana. And you can see, click again, skip my banana again, let's add a few more. Yeah, you can see the second time it's much faster. Just to explain why you get that delayed the first time. But what this does, it opens up the Twinmotion library to thousands more objects of incredible amounts of things. And that's, you know, that's just one library. You could have pairs instead. Yeah, wow. Look at this. Just phenomenal amounts of stuff in there. So, you know, it really, honestly, the criticism that the libraries weren't good enough is gone away from me now. If anything, there's too much choice. It's phenomenal.
Hey.
So yeah, I'm getting a bit hungry, getting snacky now. So do take a look in here. There's something for everybody. You know, there's lots of sort of nice, should we say, rocks and boulders and sort of gamey things. Because it's a bit used by the computer gaming industry, some of it can be a bit computer sort of CGI based, but there's all sorts of stuff I think where you can explore. Of course, one of the downsides of the folders is you don't really know what's in them until you kind of get there. So, you know, what you can do is search. So if I type in the word book, for example, it suggests some stuff for me. Okay, well, let's go to bookshelves. And what it will do is immediately filter to find me. In fact, that is just probably searching that one library, it is. So if I do that again, it's really clever, this little search thing. So if I go to bookshelves, basically it's going to find me everything, you know, with the word book in. Let's go for table. Let's see if that's going to come up with anything. Yeah, you can see it's just searched all the items. So it's kind of cool, this, and I like the way you can, if you like something a lot, you can favorite it. So when you do favorites, that means that you can basically click on this button here to only show your favorites. It's a bit like the Vectorworks favorites, Tamsin, in your resources browser. So extremely nice tip. Good. Okay, so I think we're doing quite well, running short of time as ever. So let's get some final output drawings. The last thing I just want to touch on is the wonderful lighting. Now, lighting in most CGI softwares is the hardest bit, I'd say. One of the beauties with Twinmotion is the elegance and the ease. All you do is simply drag in the light and it immediately kind of sticks to the surface that you drag it onto. Okay, so let's sort of drag a light over that table. Now I can adjust the quality of that light. So it's just that angle of the cone, nice intense cone. Let's get a little bit less intense. So let's type in 100 lumens. So I can be very precise, or I can just sort of use the slider. I can turn the shadows on and off as well. So you can see now the light doesn't appear below the table. So very, very straightforward. And if I hold Shift down and drag off a copy of that light, let's go over to this part of the ceiling. What I can do is make another copy or an instance. And the nice thing about the instances is when you change one of them, can you see how they're both changing? Really, really neat. So yeah, it kind of really helps you visualize your lighting in a very elegant way. So yeah, for me, with real-time rendering, that's one of the huge benefits, as well as just being able to sort of navigate around in real time. Okay, as we're coming towards the end-ish of the presentation, I mean, I could probably talk all day about this, but don't want to keep you forever. Let's talk now about the unique presentation features that Twinmotion offers. Okay, so there's two things we can do. We can click on this button here to go full screen. Now, this is called presenter mode. And suddenly, what do you think, Tams? It looks pretty stunning, doesn't it? Without all the icons and everything.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
It's very nice. And now you can sort of, so if I present to the client
just
online.
One thing though, what that cone of light on the table that's actually passing the dining table, it seems to be passing right through. Is that a property of that light? You know how in Vectorworks you can say to a light that it doesn't cast shadows and it therefore will pass straight through. Yeah.
Yeah,
so
exactly
that's controllable. Yeah.
Yeah, if I click onto the light, let's come out of full screen mode. I'll just demo that again. So let's go and find my light. Let's just open it up. It's probably going to be down here, the last thing I added. There it is. Can you see shadows are off? If I turn them on, suddenly it won't show.
Right, yeah.
That's what it was. I could have changed the attenuation as well, which is the, should we say, the amount of depth. So it just shines on the table. So there's a few ways you can do that. Excellent. So the full screen mode is super nice. This is the one that I use to present to my clients when I'm, doing Zoom presentations. I have done for last year. There's an extra neat little trick I just want to show you all though. And I really love this. So let's come back out here. We'll go to our media dock. And we'll go to, I'll talk about video in a second. In fact, let's talk about video now for a minute. So setting up still images is super straightforward. I better just create one for you. Let's just go back to there 1 second. Okay, just let my computer catch up. The old spinning wheel again. Knew this would be a bit fraught with danger, streaming and Twinmotion at the same time on my MacBook.
Oh, Maverick.
I'm hoping it hasn't crashed. Let's just see. Just back in Vectorworks in a minute. Okay, I think we're back. Yeah, I think it was just loading in my videos. So all I need to do to create a video, for example, is click plus here. That's my first frame, my first keyframe. So all I need to do is move around my model a little bit. And the minimum really you need for a half decent video is 2 keyframes. Click another one. So now I can rewind and I can literally play and preview that video in real time. Now I know I can see the experience that everybody's getting at home. It's a bit jerky on your screens, but I promise you this will be super smooth when you're looking at it on your screen on a good graphics card. So
it's basically doing the tweening. It's automatically tweening between those two frames.
That's right. And what's really lovely is you don't need a lot to set up a really nice looking little sequence. And with each frame, you can actually do some quite unique things. So for example, I could change the time of day on this sort of last frame to try and get that sun streaming in there. So what will happen now is when I play through the video, probably the sun will stay the same for the first 2 bits of frame, but I could have adjusted it for the middle one. Just watch now, Let. Suddenly in the last little clip, the sun changes and the direction changes and it starts to stream through. So I love that, doing these little solar studies. Very, very neat.
Yeah. On that subject, Jonathan, with
Sure.
the position, the sort of geolocation of the model,
Yeah.
obviously we've got within Vectorworks we can geolocate using just X and Y, or we can use GIS, and
Yeah.
we use a heliodon. If you've just used X and Y, then you would set your heliodon location. If you'd use GIS, you could actually get the heliodon to just mimic the GIS settings.
Yeah.
When that comes across to Twinmotion, does it still know that? Does it still retain that, you know, putting the sun in the right place for that model, or is that
Yes,
something you have to
it would
set
if you
up?
set everything up geolocated in Vectorworks, it would. As I say,
Right.
I don't necessarily do that in my Vectorworks BIM model. I do it in my site file in Vectorworks. So I
Okay.
reference my BIM model into the
Yep.
site. But yeah, absolutely. For those of you who need that capability, it would do that. But you know, again, it will also work the other way if you don't want to model in geographical origins as well. So you get
So
flexibility
you can
with it.
set within Twinmotion, you can say the sun is here in this
Yes, that's right.
specific location in the UK. That's
Just,
great.
you just literally adjust the north angle, and you can do it per frame of image as well. All right then, so video, that's ticked off. Super easy to be your own film director. So let's move on to one of my favourite sort of things when I'm presenting to clients is called a presenter mode. Okay, so I'll build one in front of you. So basically I haven't got one. Let's click Create Presenter. And basically all I do is I click to add some media. So now what's really lovely is I can essentially drag and drop slides really. And I kind of call this a bit like PowerPoint on steroids. So I can basically choose a number of slides that I want to show you. Let's drag a nice night shot down as well. So in a way, this is like I've done my sort of project, and I've fiddled around creating loads of images. And now I'm actually sort of thinking, right, what do I actually really want to show the client here? You know, I know I'm able to select a group of images. I can reorder them as well, so I can put them in a nice logical order, not necessarily the order I created in. I could add panoramics, haven't got any of those at the moment, and I could add a few video clips as well. So let's just go and add that last little clip down here, and maybe that little external one as well. Okay, so PowerPoint on steroids, these are my images. Okay, now the final cool thing that I can do, rearrange them and so on, but I can now when I click onto this button here again, as I said before, I go into presenter, and now I've actually got a presenter mode. I get my little previews down here. Again, I can hide those if I want to. I can just pop them up. So what an amazing way to present. And the thing is, you're not fixed. You know, I can still navigate in at any time. I can take over, and I can sort of change the point of view. You know, discuss to the client what it is I want to communicate to them. But then I can kind of take myself back onto track when I get a bit diverted with my pre-prepared slides. So it's a real presenter's dream, and you know, for an architect or urban designer or a landscape architect, whoops, went underground there, to present in this way and still be able to kind of change all the things like the quality of time of day and the lighting. It's just a dream come true for me, Tamsin. Honestly, you know, I've been after this for years, really. It's just,
That's lovely.
it really is, yeah. Got a bit bright there, didn't it? Okay, so that's presenter mode, which is super, super nice. Love that. And you, as I say, you can kind of take over at any time and just sort of tweak the view. So it's not like it's a static image like a PowerPoint. You know, you literally are in the model live presenting. I think that's unique. Okay, wonderful. And so that was presenter. So then your
just
final
on the
bit,
subject
really,
of presentation, one other question's popped in.
yeah.
Can you use a VR headset? to
Oh
walk
yeah,
the client through
great question. Thank you.
your scheme.
Yeah, so if you have a
And
VR headset,
same for Vectorworks, really. Yeah, and I can answer the Vectorworks bit. Yes. So.
thank you. Yeah, you just click here. Can you see there's a VR mode? You just click that, and if you've got a headset plugged in, that's it. One click, it will present to you in VR. I've done it a couple of times. Other people have shown me it is very immersive, you know. So yeah, I'm probably still waiting just a little bit longer to get my first sort of really good headset, but definitely something I want to have a play with. Very, very neat. Yeah, there's all sorts of stuff in here. This is quite nice as well. There's some sort of what they call graphical styles. So if you're not ready to discuss with the client, you know, the materiality, you can sort of present in some slightly more subtle ways. I quite like these, the more sketchy styles. These are cool. So this takes away the debate about, oh, I don't like the colour of that floor, or, you know, whatever it is. So they're fun. That one's a bit shiny for me. I like these ones, the foam card, the sort of white card model. That's a bit blue, but you can change those settings. And we just go back to default. So that's all available here. Look. Okay, so what we'll do then, let's round up by saying, yep, we're ready now we've got our media, we've got our images, we've reviewed those. We've got our videos. We didn't do panoramics, we've got our presenter. So what we can actually do is basically go to export. Now this is really neat. You know, instead of having to wait to export individual files, it's a bit like batch publishing in Vectorworks really. We can select any image, or if we want, just click select all. Okay. And we could literally render out all those images. I'm not going to do this, by the way. Render out all these videos and even my presenter in one click. Okay. One of the real beauties of Twinmotion is the speed. I mean, this is just one image and it's a 4K image. So maybe I will, at the end of the presentation, click Start Export and do that. But you will see that it will only take a number of seconds to render. And I've got a really neat little trick where I re-reference those back into Vectorworks as referenced images. So as soon as you click export, Twinmotion overwrites the files that you told it to export. You simply go back to Vectorworks and click onto
and there they are on your sheet layer.
Yeah, and you click update, and there they all are sat there.
Fantastic.
Rather than viewports, they're just sat there really fast.
Nice.
Bearing in mind, sorry. It's a neat little trick. Bearing in mind the 4K image takes only a few seconds. The final thing is, I'm not sure I'm going to demonstrate this because we are running a bit short time. You can actually have access to the Twinmotion cloud. So you can publish your presenter onto the cloud. May have one that I can just show you. Let's see if I do. I'm not sure whether I've actually got something available or not. I might not have it on this particular project set up, so maybe that's something I'm not going to show. But what you do when you publish on the cloud, you'll get it with a link, and you can send the link to the client, and they can literally move around on their computer, a bit like I'm doing with you guys now. Not quite to the same quality yet. Okay, the streaming is a little bit less high quality. But sorry, I'm going a bit fast there, wasn't I? But basically, presenting on the cloud is something that I think is going to be huge, you know, in the next sort of few years as well.
Yeah, definitely.
To be able to send that link. So, you know,
I think also the pandemic has changed people's views of that. You know, these things are much more. It's much easier to persuade a client to contemplate things like that.
Absolutely, yes, definitely. So I'm going to put my webcam. Was my webcam on all the time, Tamsin? I can't
it was
see
actually. It. Yes, it was.
Fine. Well,
yep.
Here we go. Excellent. Good. So I'm hoping that gives people a really good overview of Twinmotion. This is how I use it. I really enjoy using it as a sort of visualization software alongside my modeling, which is Vectorworks, always will be Vectorworks. You know, you need your modeling software. It just sits there and partners with whether you're using SketchUp, Revit, or anything else. But let's talk about Vectorworks today. And the beauty is, it really allows you to essentially, you know, create gorgeous images with atmosphere, movement, changing weather, changing lighting, things that you could never really do with other software. I think that is the real beauty for me as a sort of designer. It's really given me my mojo back for 3D rendering. It was something that was taking too long and I was too busy to do for a while, I have to say. But now I'm thoroughly enjoying it again, and my clients are enjoying it too. And I do find that you know, the response I get from things like the planners and consultees is excellent as well. So it's a very engaging process. And hopefully what I've demonstrated today with Twinmotion is, you know what, it's actually quite easy now, isn't it? You've got to have a decent bit of hardware, but once you've got that, you know, the interface is simple and everything is very straightforward, drag and drop. So my advice is definitely give it a try. If you're interested, let me know and I can help with any training or software for you. But I hope you've all enjoyed that, and I hope, you know, for some of you it's maybe opened your eyes to where things are now. Because a couple of years ago, this sort of stuff was just, you know,
it just didn't
impossible.
exist. Yeah.
No, it's a new thing, really, isn't it? It's all driven by the computer games industry. And I think for years we've always known that computer gaming and architecture industries would sort of collide, but they truly have now with Epic Games taking on Twinmotion.
Yes, it's interesting actually talking about the whole VR thing. I was just chatting with one of our attendees on the question panel. Our son, he just had his 21st birthday, and you know, we were thinking, would he like a watch or something like that? But no, he wanted a Quest headset, and so that's what he's had.
Wonderful.
That's the new 21st birthday.
You'll have to try it with Twinmotion, Tamsin. I'll have to do a share with you sometime and
yes,
you know, get your experience in the building. I think my son's keen to get one soon as well. So shall I stop sharing for a minute and go back just to the webcam? Good.
Okay.
Do we have any other questions?
No, I think I've apologies for interrupting as I have, but I sort of interjected at the time when I felt it would be a reasonable time. So I think we have pretty well covered them off now. So yeah, thanks to everyone for attending. We've had lots and lots of people here. Really interesting presentation, and just lovely to see how Vectorworks can be extended in that way. And also I really like the referencing, the fact that you've kind of round tripped that. So you're still producing your drawings in Vectorworks, but you're actually being able to incorporate that output from Twinmotion straight onto your sheet layers.
Yeah, it's nice because you can have Vectorworks on one screen, Twinmotion sat on the other. You just, okay, yes, you've got to export. That's going to get easier in the future, I think we're allowed to say.
Indeed. Yeah, definitely.
And actually the process now is pretty straightforward, so definitely.
Yeah. You should, for those attending, do take a look at our roadmap, which is now published on the web. You just Google Vectorworks roadmap, you'll find it. So
yeah, fantastic. Well, I'd just like to round off by saying thanks for everybody for attending, and please do let me know if I can help with Vectorworks training or licenses or Twinmotion the same. And you've all got my email, hopefully. If not, you'll get it from Tamsin, or I'll drop you an email. So please come back.
Yes. And we've had lots of people saying thank you very much for the offer of your book. They would love a copy. So we'll organise getting that out to everyone.
Fantastic. All right. Lovely to see everybody.
Thanks everyone. Bye for now.
Bye bye.